Good evening, everyone. How are you guys doing tonight? Wet? Yeah, lots of rain outside, right? Hi, good evening. Hello, yes. First time? Yeah, welcome. I would like to give the welcome for the ones which are coming for the first time. What a responsibility to give a talk for those who comes over here for the first time. Tonight, when we look into this topic, suicide, it looks like we're gonna have a message, we're gonna have a talk about the bad things or the worst that we can get, or the worst consequences that we can get on our lives. Actually, what we're gonna be talking about tonight is something. It's very enlightening. Because when we talk about suicide, we talk about something that we are doing against ourselves. But the message that we want to leave tonight, the message that we would like you guys to go back home and reflect upon it, is about the opportunities that we have in our life not to commit a suicide. But when we see on this first slide, suicide could be defined as wasting God's forgiveness. But why we would be wasting God's forgiveness? Because according to Emmanuel, which is one of the enlightened spirits which brings us very wonderful messages through the channeling of Chico Xavier, according to Emmanuel, reincarnation is a proof of forgiveness and mercy of God regarding our mistakes. Because when we look into the religions and when we look into our lives, what are we doing over here? What is our mission? Our mission is to look up to Christ, to the Master, look in the messages and the teachings that he gave to us, and try to master him and try to match exactly what he had done. If we compare what we have done, what we know, our behavior, and we compare which Christ has done, we realize how far we are from realizing or to reaching that level of understanding and level of behavior. We still have a long way and a long journey to learn. If we reflect upon that, it's just one existence, 60, 70, 80 years, enough to learn everything that we have to learn? If we forgive our sons and daughters' mistakes and we give them second chances to learn, wouldn't it be fair that God would be doing the same with us? So if we had just one life, one opportunity to learn everything that Christ had taught to us, honestly, it's not going to be enough for anyone. So even if we do a lot of our mistakes at the end of our life, God is giving us another opportunity. He's forgiving our mistake. He's showing his mercy towards us, giving us another life, another opportunity to come back, take the lessons again, and learn all the teachings that Jesus had taught to us. So the reincarnation is a proof of this forgiveness of God. So every time that we come over here, we have another opportunity to learn, to practice, and to evolve. That's what we're doing over here. If we decided to take out our lives, we are wasting this wonderful opportunity to have the lessons that we need to take. Each one of us, we have a different level of understanding and learning. We have different levels because we have different experiences from the past. So every time that we come back over here, there's always something new that we need to learn, that we need to, and most important than learn, put into practice. So that's why sometimes we have situations in our lives where we are tried, where we are tested to see if we are able to put in practice what we had learned before. So that's the concept that we have. If we decide to take over our life, we are wasting this wonderful opportunity. But how can we define suicide? When we go to the dictionary says that suicide is to kill oneself, to finish its own life. It's the intentional taking of one's own life. That's the basically when we learn, that we see when we go to dictionary and when we go to our material life that's put in this way. If we take into consideration just the material life, just the physical life that we have two types of suicide. One is what we call the intentional, the planned suicide. That's someone that just decided to take its own life and make a plan. It's going to take a shot at himself, or it's going to take some pills, or do something against himself to kill himself. He has planned to do that. He's taking that action on purpose. He wants to kill himself, and he wants to finish its own life. So it's planned, it's proposital, it's something that we had planned for that. That's another type of a suicide, which is what we call unconscious suicide. It's when we don't have the intention, but we are not taking the good care on ourselves, and with all the exposes that we had to life, we at the end of the day, we are provoking our own death. For example, when we abuse on the food, when we abuse on drugs and alcohol, when we abuse in the work and the stress that this life brings to us, this body that we have, it's a machine, it's a perfect machine that it was planned to give us the opportunity to do everything that we had planned to do on this life. If we don't take a good care on this machine, even if we don't have the plan to kill ourselves, unconsciously we are killing ourselves because we are not taking good care on this body. But one can say, well, you know something? America is free, I'm responsible for myself, I do on my life whatever I want to do. Oh, yes, that's true in one meeting. That's true when we were talking about the material life. But when we were talking about the spirit, which was created by God, we have a few laws and a few other things that we must look into that. According to the Spirit's book in the question 9044, do people have the right to take their own life? And the answer is no. Only God has that right. Those who voluntarily commit suicide commit a transgression against that law. Well, I need or to change my glasses or to increase the letters over here because it's getting complicated. But anyways, so we don't have the right to kill ourselves when we compare our spiritual life and we submit our spiritual life to the laws of God. God had created us. So he's the only one who has the right to say it's enough time for you, or no, you can live a little bit more. That's the basically when we look into the material life. Okay? But when we were preparing this presentation, this study, something came into my mind. Well, on the Spiritism, one of the basic principles, it's about we are immortal spirits. That for now, we are having an earthly experiences. And we are living over here to learn, to evolve, to progress, and to be as perfect as possible. As perfect as Christ, for example, which is our master model that we can have and that we can follow. So when we look into that, we are not human beings that we have a soul. We are an immortal spirit that we have a body for now. So if we are an immortal spirit, my through life is the spiritual life. And I'm just having an experiences on this at this moment. So when we look into that, we can, I would say, amplify our line of thoughts and bring other considerations to these opportunities that we have. So that's what we call the physical aspect of the suicide. On a different perspective, I'm calling over here what I call the moral suicide. Because we don't have another word to define it. Because as the spirit is more immortal, he cannot kill himself. So I'm calling this the suicide, the moral suicide that we practice, that we commit against ourselves pretty much on an everyday basis in our lives if we don't pay attention and if we don't take these concepts into consideration. One of the most important things, one of the most important realities that we have in our daily lives because of the matter, because everything that's surrounding us, that we don't pay attention and we are not concerned and we are not looking in our future lives. The only thing that we can focus is what we're going to have ahead of us on this earth. The next, God willing, God permitting, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ahead of us. I don't know if my wife would take me for another 17 years. Not even her would like to have that much time with me. But anyways, we're looking forward to see how many more years we have ahead of us. That's what we focus. We don't focus on the future. We are not focused on what we have ahead of us. We are not focusing on what we are sowing today to reap in the future. We are not paying attention on what we're doing today and the consequences that we have in the future. So one of the most important, that's one of the worst mistakes that we have, is to lose and to waste the opportunities that we have in our lives to grow ourselves spiritually and in love and in heart and in compassion. Because these are the basics that God is expecting from us to learn and to put into practice. So one of the things that we do, that it's a form of suicide, it's when we waste relationships and acquaintanceship. When we waste these relationships that we are mean or that we are put together with the people, usually the ones that we don't get along, usually the ones that we don't get very close, usually the ones that we don't, the more than we try, it doesn't matter how much we try to get along, we can't get along with those people, and we just forget about them. Can be someone in the family, someone that you have as a friend or a colleague, someone that you have as a co-worker, usually a boss. The bosses, they are they are specialized in this kind of things. We can't get along with the bosses. I don't know why, but most of us, we have difficulties with that. Well, these are the most important persons in our lives. Not our wives, not our parents, not our sons and daughters, because these that we cannot get along, these are the most important teachers for us. They come to us to teach us patience, tolerance, forgiveness, compassion, understanding, inner knowledge, self-giving, a lot of other things that we don't pay attention because we are just focusing on that 8 hours that we have to work with that person. We are just focusing on the next few years that we have to carry that son-in-law or someone in our family with us. We are not focusing what is expecting with us in the future, in the next life, in two reincarnations from now on. So we don't pay attention on this opportunity. And we wasted these opportunities, and we wasted the opportunity to get along with that person. We wasted the time, we throw away a chance that we have to get someone that we don't get along and put into practice those teachings and those things that God is expecting from us. The other way that we commit a moral suicide, when we throw away work opportunities. Not so much the material works that we have, but most importantly, the ones that we have to do inside ourselves. When we don't pay attention to the little mistakes and opportunities that we have, because if nobody told you guys that before, I'm going to tell you a secret. Nobody's perfect. We always, all of us, we have a few things here and there that we need to fix it. I would say we are in a very good way. About 15% of us is already in a good shape, but we still have another 85% that we still have to take a look and change a thing or two here and there. But as we are not perfect, we still have to work a lot inside of us. And we lose those opportunities. How do we lose those opportunities of work? For example, when we avoid complications, when we avoid to be on very complicated situations, when we avoid to look into something and try to find the reason for that, Why am I in that position? Why I'm over here? What is the message that I have to learn? Why am I suffering that much? Why am I tied up with this work that I cannot move along? Why I cannot leave this space? Why I can't find another spot for me and another job in somewhere else? Why I can't get rid of this person which is with me for my entire life? Why? Why? Because we didn't find the answer yet that we have to change inside ourselves. The most important work opportunity that we throw away is to look inside ourselves, inside our hearts, and see what is wrong and try to fix it. That's another way, that's another form to commit suicide as well. Another one is when we waste our time. Time is the only resource that doesn't come back. Once wasted, it's wasted. Health, well, we can be sick today, we go to the hospital, see the doctor. Next week, we will be fine again. Money, we gain today, we lose tomorrow, we gain another week. Next month, we have the money back again. All of these resources, we can have it back. A job, we lose a job here, we get another one over there. We lose a house over here, we get another one over there. I get fired here, I get another opportunity over there. But a time, it's not coming back. Whatever we had lost, whatever we had not utilized it as we were supposed to, we are not getting that again. At least not in this incarnation. At least not in this lifetime. So it's wasted. What are we doing with our time? How much time are we dedicating to ourselves to look into real deep inside ourselves and make a plan to be a better person ourselves? We put a lot of effort and a lot of time to look in our jobs, in our companies, in our work environment and see what is wrong, what do we have to do, how can we do that. We usually work on a work plan, on a task plan, or something like that. Next steps, what I need to improve, how we're going to be improving this process and everything. How much time that we dedicated to ourselves, to our lives, to our immortal spirits? How much time are we dedicating to have a real-time me time? It's very important that we reserve some time in our lives to evaluate ourselves. Some of us, or there's a lot of people out there, that the only thing that guys are thinking is the time that they are spending at the bar or at the dance club or with their friends or drinking or having parties or going to the beach or enjoying their boats or something like that. So that means that I cannot go to the beach and I cannot join your boat? Of course you can. It's mandatory, I would say. Because this body over here is still made of matter. And this matter needs some relaxing. It's not relax, the word. It needs some... huh?
Relaxation.
No, it's descanso is... Rest. Thank you so much. This matter over here needs some rest. So there is nothing wrong that we go to the beach, especially clear water, on a wonderful place, very beautiful, nice water, nice, white, pristine sand beaches, wonderful place to be. There is nothing wrong against that. There is nothing wrong to take a boat and take a ride with the boat. There's nothing wrong with that. The wrong part, if we only start to think on that. If we make our lives and we transform our lives just to be enjoying the beach, just to be enjoying or joining the boat, that's wrong. And some of us, we waste our lives because we start to look for the things, for the satisfactions, for the pleasures, which is going to be gone in a few years. What about the satisfaction of love? What about the pleasure that we can see and look into our souls and see, I'm living this life much better than when I came in? What I'm doing with the time that I had on my life in my hands, my 60, 70, 80 years, what I have done with that? That's a resource that when we go back to our spiritual life, we're going to be held accountable for that. Did you use your time wisely? Did you use your time to help other people? Did you use your time to touch somebody else's heart? To give some attention to someone? To give some food for someone that was hungry? To visit someone in the hospital? Or all of your time you wasted going to the beach, to the parties, and everything else? That's another form of suicide that we bring. Another one is when we do not practice charity. And charity, in a very broad definition, can be defined by the attitudes of benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness. And why we're committing a suicide against ourselves when we don't practice charity? Because when we practice charity, we are combating, we are working towards the end of the pride, vanish, selfishness. We are looking and thinking first on the others, then to think in ourselves. We are putting in practice the law of love. We are putting in movement the law of love. We are trying to practice what Christ had taught us to do, what he had exemplified us, and what he had taught to us. So when we do not practice, when we have an opportunity to do the charity, and we waste that opportunity, we throw away that opportunity, we are not going to be working towards a better us. So when we put up all of these, when we waste relationships in acquaintanceship, when we throw away work opportunities, when we waste our time, when we don't practice charity, aren't we finishing our own life? Which is the definition that I brought on the second slide from the dictionary. Aren't we wasting our life? Aren't we throwing away the forgiveness and the mercy of God when he gave us another life, another opportunity? Do we have that right? According to the Spirit's book, we don't have that right. Only God has that right. So when we talk about suicide, the very first thing that comes to our mind is what do we do against our own body, our physical existence, to finish our life right away. But we commit suicide many, many times during our lifetime. We commit suicide sometimes every day, and we don't even notice that. We throw away opportunities. We waste our time. We don't pay attention to the people that needs our help. And all of these are opportunities of involvement, of practice that we are throwing away. It's very important to remember every day in our lives, we are not a body that we have a soul living on this earthly life. We are immortal spirits that temporarily we are living on this earth with this body, taking the lessons that we need, which is going to drive us towards perfection. So every time that we lost something like this, that we don't take the chances, we're committing a kind of suicide. But of course, that everything that happens, God has always a help and a way to avoid it. To avoid these kind of things, first we need to understand what are the causes, why we do that, why we throw away those opportunities, why we don't pay attention as much as we should be. First, because we are unaware of the truth. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Once we decided to understand and look inside of us, comparing ourselves, our behavior with the Jesus teachings, we're going to analyze and we're going to find out what is wrong and what we need to be done. And the more that we study, the more responsible we'll become, and easier becomes to take the responsibilities and take the actions that we need to take. One of the things that we need to do is dedicate some time to ourselves to understand and study us and to study and to understand the Gospels and the messages that Christ has given to us. Because over there is the way that we should follow. Christ said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody goes to God without unless it goes through me. If we follow that, if we follow his teachings, we're going to be finding the way that we need to. And we should not be aware, we should not be afraid. That's another reason. We are afraid to know this truth. Because while I don't know, I don't have the responsibilities. And a lot of us, we are kind of afraid of this responsibility. Well, I don't know anything, so nobody can charge me for that or can tell me that I'm responsible and everything. But why are we afraid to be responsible? Why? Because of the pride. Because when we decided to do something, when we decide to take a decision, make a decision based on what we know and what we think, we have so much pride that afterwards we can't say, I made a wrong decision, I made a wrong choice, and I need to change. Because we are perfect. In our evaluation, we are perfect. We make no mistakes. So that's why we are so afraid to know it. Because we are afraid to take responsibilities. Because if we make a wrong decision, we are afraid to say, I'm sorry, I did something wrong. But when we look into ourselves as students, and we are, I would say, our eternal lifetime students, because we are immortal spirits, and we're going to be learning for the next, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 billion years. So we have a few years ahead of us studying. So one of the ways that we study, one of the ways, I would say the best way that we learn something is when we do something. When you are in the classes taking notes and everything and looking to the books or to the PowerPoint presentations, we are not learning really that much. But when we do the exercises, when we do ourselves, that's when we learn. How are we going to be learning all of these lessons in our lives if we are not doing that? If we are not making decisions, if we are not making choices or taking chances, if we are waiting life to become and teaching us, we are not going to learn effectively by heart. So we should not be afraid and make our own choices and take our own decisions. Also, to have to take the responsibility or the way that we usually we like it to transfer in the faults. That's very common in the work environment. Something happens, the boss shows up red as a beet because he wants to kill someone, that someone did something wrong. The first thing that you do is, he did it. It wasn't me. No, I didn't know. Haven't you seen? No, I didn't see the email. I didn't see the memo. No, I had no idea that it was going to happen and everything. We transfer responsibilities because we are afraid of that. Because, again, we think we're perfect. We are not. We are on this involvement process. We still have a long way to go, and we should not be afraid of that. And every time that we let these things happen, we're going to collect the consequences. One of the most important ones, the ones that we see right away, is the delay on our involving process. The longer that we decided to take a responsibility in our own life, the longer we're going to stay where we are. It's about time. It's about time. Why the fear? Why the fear? Let's just think in something. The universe, every single day, science is bringing something new about the universe that we don't know. But the universe is being developed for the last 15 billion years. Can we imagine that? Earth has about 4.5 billion years. The universe has 15 billion years. It's so many zeros that it can't even fit on my mind. But let's try to put this into a perspective. Someone is taking care on this universe for the last 15 billion years with all the harmony, with all the balance, everything working perfectly, everything on its place where it should be by the time that it has to be, and everything happening on a perfect balance. If you guys haven't realized that yet, God is behind that. What is the motrix form? What is the motrix power behind of that? It's the love. Love, it's what keeps everything in balance, everything under control, everything running as it's supposed to run. So, with all the love that we have in the universe coming from God, and are we still afraid? And we still have fears? How much are we trusting in God ourselves? The conclusion that we can take is that we are trusting more in us, on our judgment, than in God. Well, let me just tell you a secret. God has a little bit more of experience than us. Yeah. We're getting there. But he has a little bit more of experiences. If we weren't so proud, we would be trusting more on him than we trust on us. Another consequence, it's we're going to need to rebuild our perispirit, and we're going to have new lives with limitations in the future. Even if we commit a suicide against our physical machine, our physical body, we're going to have the consequences for that in the future. And even if we wasted the opportunities that we had, that was mentioned before, we're going to have consequences as well. Let's just suppose that someone likes the beach too much, that can't just leave the beach, just wasted his entire life on the beach, enjoying, having fun, building sandcastles and everything else. By the end of this life, when this person returns to the spiritual realm, the pain that this person is going to feel when they realize that how much time they wasted, it's going to affect the balance on their perispirits. The perispirit is the involvement that compasses the spirit and makes the relationship with the material world. This imbalance that we're going to cause it to ourselves is going to bring prejudice, is going to bring problems for our future generations, for our future lives, because the thing that makes the connection between the spirits and the matter, we're going to be so imbalanced, so out of control, there's going to bring consequences for our own body in the future. And even with the persons that we were supposed to be living on this life, we're gonna have to collect an immensely emotional bailout with the former familiar spirits, because we waste an opportunity to be together with the people that we are today, to have the family that we have today. There's a humongous planning behind of that. The family that we have, the spouses, the parents, the relatives, the sons and daughters, the grandkids, they are not just a chance. They are not there because, something happened and by chance I met the person and we decide to have X amount of kids and sons and these kind of things. No. On our family, we have the ones that we needed to spend some time to adjust a few things from the past. And to be put together on this incarnation, there is a lot of planning that was dedicated to that. And if we commit a suicide against our body or against our own life, we are wasting that opportunity again. So we're going to have an immense emotional bailout that we're going to have to collect in the future. But there is a solution for that, and it's pretty easy. How to avoid wasting our lives on the ways that we are doing today. The first one is through the study and the reflection. Study the messages, study the word, study the passages, how it relates to ourselves, what do we need to change, and start working on ourselves. That's our mission. That's what we have to do over here. When we give our lives a new meaning, a different meaning, when we started to take some time for our busy schedule to dedicate some time to a real good cause, we are giving our life a different meaning, a different perspective. We started to see somebody else's pain on a totally different perspective. And we started, most important, to see what we have, the troubles that we have, the issues, the struggles that we go through means nothing comparing to somebody else's problems. When we give to our life a different meaning, we start to take, or we start to get in contact, we start to be exposed to somebody else's pain, and then we can take into perception, or into a new perspective, that what we suffer is nothing. Then we see how happy we are, how blessed we are. And that changes a lot ourselves. That changes a lot. Because we stop to complaining. Because if we pay attention, have we realized that how much time we waste complaining about things? The government, my team, my coach, my co-workers, my boss, my boss, my boss, my boss, my boss, my wife, my kid, especially during the teenager years. How much time we waste complaining about that? But when we have our life on a different perspective, these we're going to have on a different perspective as well. We're going to see and we're going to realize how blessed we are. When we started to practice acceptance and resignation, that we have the situations and the situations that we have in our lives, because these are the ones which are going to bring us the best teachings that we can get ever. When we put in practice the acceptance and the resignation, we're going to start to evolve ourselves. We're going to start to be more patient, more tolerant, have more compassion towards others. So all of these, when we put it together, we start to see a different way, and we start to see the light from the love of God coming towards us. And when we start to see this light, we start to see our lives on a different way. We might see that the pathway that we are taking now maybe is not the best one. Maybe I need to change it here and there. Maybe I need to take a detour over there. Maybe I need to do something different with myself. Maybe I needed to improve something on me. Maybe I needed to correct a few things that I have on my behavior, on the way that I treat people, and the way that I treat my co-workers and everybody else which is around me. But we're going to have a much clearer vision when we live, or when we allow the light of God, the light that comes from the love of God towards us, taking part in our lives. And the way to do so is when we start to study, when we start to reflect, when we start to give our life a new meaning, and when we put into practice the acceptance and the resignation. And the most important ones, when we do not accumulate inner remorse. Don't take with you somebody else's trash. It doesn't belong to us. Most of our illness, most of our problems with our physical body, that's because we are taking remorse, or we're taking somebody else's fault as our own fault, as our own problem. It's not. It's theirs. But that's another secret also, which is going to take another, I would say, 5 or 6 incarnations until we get this real clear. But it's a learning. We are already starting to take in contact and starting to see the perspectives of that. That's what is important. But the message that I would like to leave you guys tonight with is the suicide is not just what we do against our own physical body, but the most important, that's what we do with ourselves, against ourselves on a daily basis, every day of our lives. But no need to worries, no need to be concerned, no need to be depressed. Because once we open the window of our hearts for the light that comes from the love of Christ, from the love of Jesus, from the love of God, we're going to find our perspective and we're going to find our pathway towards perfection. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us tonight.